When you think of clowns, happy memories don't always come to mind. There are many people that have fears of clowns. Whether this is inspired by watching horror movies, or just because their appearance is in general creepy, millions of people have talked about their fear of clowns, which has caused psychological experts to look into the phenomena. Some researchers have said this comes down to them being unpredictable, and that their appearance can be deceiving. Although they may look happy on the outside, their true intentions are never known. People with these fears were understandably worried by the 2016 clown craze. This was a time when many people from around the world dressed up as clowns and would try to scare people on purpose. This caused various videos to be uploaded showing their antics. Here in the UK, the sightings started around the 30th of September. Various towns started to report these creepy clowns. At first it started off as somewhat of a joke, with these clowns jumping out from behind bushes and scaring people. However, the actions of these individuals soon started to raise eyebrows. One individual reported that she had a lifelong fear of clowns. One particular night, she was walking home when one of these clowns chased her. After this story broke, various other clowns then started up the creepiness. It was then at this point that the police got involved and told people that if they saw these clowns or saw them doing anything suspicious, they should call the police straight away. Regardless, the sightings and encounters soon started to slow down, and it seemed that the clown sightings of 2016 just stopped, with many residents happy about this. Now residents across the United States have reported seeing these clowns once again, with various people saying that they are worried that these clowns will cause damage with everything that's going on at the moment. One woman claimed that while driving down a dark road, she came across someone wearing a clown costume. Those who saw the video have expressed their concern that the clown craze might be coming back. The worry is that with all the unrest that's happening right now, some will take advantage of this and use it as an opportunity to spread more fear. The first clown sighting started in the United States in South Carolina. This was back in August of 2016, when various people started to witness and record clowns in the nearby woods. In fact, when some people went to confront the clowns and tell them to stop, they were attacked. According to one report, a woman's son heard strange noises coming from the nearby woods. When he went to investigate, he could see several clowns whispering words. This was enough to worry the boy. He ran home and told his mother about what he'd just seen, at which point she called the local sheriff. This happened close to Greenville. Although a few places reported the incident, it was taken as a single account, with many thinking that it wouldn't escalate any further than this. However, after it was reported, it seemed to have inspired various other people to do the same thing. Local news then reported that since this first incident, various other residents started to report seeing other clowns. This soon led to officers to take the report seriously, and arrests soon started to be made. For example, one man in Kentucky was arrested for dressing up as a clown and hiding in the woods, mirroring the first report that happened in Greenville. One woman was doing some shopping in her local Walmart, but when she came out and walked to her car, she could see one of the clowns nearby. She quickly called 911, where officers soon arrived on the scene. Other reports soon started to flood in from Texas, Florida, California, and Colorado, each following a similar theme. Another worrying report was made in mid-September, and this was when police were told to investigate an incident involving two clowns. The eyewitnesses reported that two grown men were dressed in full clown suits, and they were walking around their neighborhood at 6 a.m. This made the news because people who saw it were children, and at the time they were heading towards the school bus. However, others noted that the two grown men started to follow two young boys. There's others, though, that came forward and said the whole clown craze was blown out of proportion, and that people were getting worried over nothing. They stated that it was a case of mass hysteria, and that the majority of people who claimed to have seen these clowns most likely didn't. Others hit back at this, though, and said that these cases needed to be investigated, and that a trend like this should be taken seriously. As mentioned, there's others that have expressed concern that a new clown craze could start, and that with everything going on it could be worse than last time. Residents have said the last thing we need right now is creepy clowns running around scaring everyone. Not only could it be bad for people's safety, but also the clowns. However, others have noted that the clown sightings could be because of Halloween. Same as the last craze that happened just before Halloween and also just before the 2017 film it was released. Some who looked into the clown sightings suggested that they may have been inspired by the movie, even though this was never confirmed. The most likely answer is that people just dressed up as these clowns as a joke. But when videos started to get posted online and people started talking about it, others thought it would be funny to get involved and try and scare people for themselves. As of right now, it's still early days and no one knows whether this will turn into something much bigger. It's anyone's guess as to what will happen and only time will tell. Although this may sound like a joke to some, having a fear of a clown is something that's very much real. In fact, back in 2008, a study was conducted on 250 children, in which they were asked how they felt about clowns. The study found that almost every single one of the children said they didn't like clowns. However, to cause even more confusion, another study was conducted which found that children do like clowns, and that before certain events clowns were used to cheer up children. One study that was published in the Natural Medicine Journal found that children who had a respiratory illness actually got better faster when they interacted with clowns. Regardless, there's still many people that don't like clowns and actively go out of their way to avoid them. It seems that these individuals won't be happy with the news that they may be returning. So what do you guys make of these recent sightings? And do you think there could be another clown graze? Also, what would you do if you was approached by one of these clowns? Perhaps one of the world's most interesting artifacts, the Voynich manuscript has been shrouded in mystery from the 15th century when it was discovered to the 21st century, where we are none the wiser as to what it says, who it was written by, or even what language it was written in. This odd manuscript is named after Wilfrid Voynich, an antiquarian bookseller who bought the manuscript in 1912 from a Jesuit library in Italy. It is now kept in the Binek Rare Book and Manuscript Library at Yale University, USA, where it has been held since 1969. Scholars and scientists alike have wondered for centuries what this manuscript says, and many individuals have taken numerous attempts at decoding it, so far with very little success. Artificial intelligence could not crack the code. In 2018, artificial intelligence endeavored to figure out the 600-year-old code, though even the AI could not reliably figure out what this code said. The Voynich manuscript appears to contain between 25 and 30 characters, as interpretations have been varied, and is written from left to right by a single hand. It is made up of 102 parchment folios, meaning it reaches approximately an astounding 234 pages in length. This subjective information is minimal and does not necessarily aid in solving the mystery after the original language the manuscript was written in. The manuscript is written in an unidentified language, using an alphabet that has not been seen elsewhere prior to the manuscript's discovery or after it was found. Many believe it has been written using a substitution cipher. This involves the letters of an existing language being exchanged for made-up letters to create a code. Typically, a substitution cipher is considered the simplest code and is one of the oldest methods of encrypting a text. If it really is such a simple code, then why haven't scientists been able to translate the manuscript? Scientists have no idea what the original language is to begin figuring out where the substitutions have been made. Bradley Hauer and Gregor Kondrak aim to use computational analysis in order to find a country the text may have originated from or a language it was written in. Numerous algorithms were trained to pick up the statistical fingerprint of the text and compare it to existing established languages to attempt to find a match. Factors such as the frequency of each letter and combinations of letters were used. Hauer and Kondrak began using this software on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. They input 380 languages. This trial appeared to work and be successful, so they moved forward with their research. A computational linguist at Illinois Institute of Technology stated that the results were in debate, but not more so than many other results often published in the scientific literature. The next step in their artificial intelligence testing and research was for Kondrak and Hauer to apply these algorithms to the infamous Voynich manuscript. But this was where the pair began to encounter numerous issues. The initial obstacle is that the algorithm was trained to trace modern languages. The evolution of languages regarding vocabulary, grammar, syntax, and spelling is massive, and so languages we use today are incredibly different to the same languages in the late medieval or early modern societies. Is when the manuscript was traced back to in the 15th century. Another problematic element of the AI research is that while suggestions are made for the closest matches, the probability of this being a match is not considered. Kondrak and Hauer claimed to have discovered the source language, Hebrew, through their algorithm. However, this was the closest match of the 380 languages they inputted but was not a certain match. Other matches that were considered close, for example Malay, are drastically different from Hebrew, and so the validity of this algorithm may be deemed very low. The lack of evaluation regarding how likely each language is means that Hebrew may have been the closest match available, but not necessarily similar enough to the source language for a substitution code. The final hurdle, and perhaps the factor that is a deal-breaker in the validity of their research, is that Kondrak and Hauer suggested Voynich manuscript is written using not only a substitution cipher, but that it was also written in anagrams, having the letters within each word jumbled up too. Whilst this has been suggested before, it is certainly not a proven fact, just a theory. Kondrak and Hauer used Google Translate, which has a reputation for forcing nonsensical words and phrases into coherent, fluent sentences. Despite all the indicators that their work should be and would be disregarded, Kondrak and Hauer claimed the first sentence of the Voynich manuscript to be as follows. She made recommendations to the priest, man of the house, and me and people. The sensationalist media headlines stated that the Voynich manuscript had been deciphered and translated, and while we may have been drawn closer, the flawed methodology of Kondrak and Hauer's work means the translation holds little weight. Maybe future artificial intelligence can solve this mystery. But for now, we still don't know. Mysterious plants, codes, and astronomical signs that feature in the book. Perhaps even more puzzling than the mysterious Voynich language appears to be written in are the bizarre illustrations, doodles, and diagrams that accompany the unknown writing. Images included in the manuscript depict strange plants, astrological diagrams, castles, dragons, and perhaps the most puzzling image, an unclothed woman in what appears to be a bath. While some outlandish theories suggest ancient water park designs, others suggest medicinal inflammation or even alien technology. One theory posed by Dr. Cheshire, a linguist at Bristol University, suggested it was a manual covering relationships and parenting, written in a code based off of a proto-Romantic language. Dr. Cheshire believes it aligns with the Catholic and Roman pagan beliefs held by many Mediterranean Europeans in the 15th century. Dr. Cheshire states that he believed the Voynich manuscript was written by Dominican nuns. Bristol University commented following media coverage, concerns have been raised about the validity of this research and went on to ensure it is known that Dr. Cheshire's work is not affiliated with the university. However, perhaps the most common guess is that the Voynich manuscript details medical information. Herbal remedies were common, explaining the plant diagrams, and many believed there was a correlation between the position of the stars and individuals' health, hence zodiac images being included. Furthermore, a bath was thought to cure many illnesses, explaining the image of the unclothed woman bathing. This suggests that health and medicine is a common factor between a fair few of the illustrations in the Voynich manuscript. The medicinal theory has been suggested by many, one of whom is historian Nicholas Gibbs in 2017. He offered the suggestion that the images centered health for the reasons just mentioned, but also that the manuscript was a pseudoscientific women's health manual. He, like many others, claimed to have solved the code and believed the absurdly complex codes were Latin abbreviations and that the Voynich manuscript was written in common shorthand that would have been understood in the 15th century and was not code that needed to be broken. His work was heavily criticized and ultimately discredited because Nicholas Gibbs either reiterated ideas people before him had suggested and his own theories. The translated sentences made little to no grammatical sense in Latin. The dismissal of Nicholas Gibbs's research ultimately means the contents of the Voynich manuscript remain a mystery. But the bizarre images seem to have an underlying theme. The Voynich manuscript appears to be split into 7 distinct sections. Botanical, containing imagery of herbs and plants. Astronomical, with pictures such as the sun, moon, and stars. Cosmological, illustrated with circular geometric designs. The zodiac section containing drawings of the zodiac signs. Biological, which has depictions of unclothed women in various baths. Pharmaceutical, with images of containers and herbs side by side. And finally, the recipe section, which contains no illustrations, merely lines of text with stars in the margin. These theories are simply based upon where certain images lie within the text. As of today, the manuscript remains a mystery. The more time that passes, the more speculation and rumors continue to grow. And every few years, we can be sure someone new will step forward announcing that they have found a new translation. But with so many experts eager to add to the research, such claims are often quickly refuted. Great minds are puzzled by the nature of the Voynich manuscript. The Cold War saw the involvement of the FBI, fearing it was a coded form of communist propaganda, as still no solution or understanding was found. Will we ever figure out this impossible code? Arguably the world's most mysterious book, allegedly figured out over and over and still nobody can read it. Linguists, historians, and cryptographers have puzzled over it for centuries and will continue to do so until we solve this mystery. What lies within the Voynich manuscript? What do you make of the mysterious Voynich manuscript? It is no surprise how alluring outer space has been to us as humans for thousands of years. Many of us understand the basic fundamentals of how space operates, such as how our planet is the third planet in the solar system and takes 365 days to fully orbit the sun. But if you really delve deep, there are a plethora of strange oddities that have been discovered in recent years that are fascinating. The repeating radio burst. The mysterious essence of radio bursts is a spectacle that scientists have considered for ages. Radio bursts produce sprouts of fast radio waves. The duration of these powerful sprouts are milliseconds from light years away inhabiting galaxies. Astronomers have been inept to pinpoint a consistent cycle of a radio burst until now. As of earlier in 2020, the fast radio burst 121102 was discovered to be a recurrent and distinct cycle. Fluent cycles of radio bursts are a foreign concept. The extent of the cycle consists of 157 days. The initial 67 days, the source remains mute, while the remaining 90 days it is bestirred from its slumber. During this stage of the cycle, it gives out frequent radio sprouts before being hushed back into oblivion, that are identified only sprout once. This imposes a challenge on astronomers as their conception is widely speculated. Subsequently, they are futile to forecast and detect. The discovery of FRB 121102, along with the assistance of other radio burst sources, has helped in growing a lead on distinguishing the mystery at our radio bursts. Before the identification of FRB 121102 cycle, it was already widely known for its activity. FRB 121102 was the most active fast radio burst discovered yet, consequently leading to the first localization of a radio burst. This research was led by astronomer Kaustubh Rajvade of the University of Manchester and his team. The justification of periodicity is becoming immense, with the benefits of multiple conclusive examinations regarding various radio bursts. The identification of its periodicity is wavering in the light of new data surfacing. A team at the Max Planck Institute for Radio Astronomy, led by Marilyn Crusoe, used the Effelsberg 100-meter radio telescope to analyze FRB 121102. The team discovered 36 bursts flaring from it. With this new data in partnership with the research conducted by Rajwadi and his team, a new number of 161 days is predicted for the following cycle. However, with the use of the 500-meter aperture spherical radio telescope, Pei Wang of the National Astronomy Observatory of China and his team were able to conclude a different periodicy than the result derived from Rajwadi and Crusoe's teams. With the data they collected crossed over with the existing data from both teams, they believe 156.1 days is a more accurate duration. If FRB 121102 continues to show activity beyond these dates, this could suggest that either the periodicity isn't real or that it has somehow evolved. None of the data concluded is definite. The vacillating tendencies of FRB 121102 will lead most of us to have a fixation on it, leaving us only to contemplate what will happen next. 486958 Arakoth 486958 Arakoth is the most distant object ever explored and is also known as 2014 MU69 by its original destination. It was discovered on the June 26, 2014. In the Algonquian language, Arakoth means sky. New Horizons principal investigator Alan Stern claimed the name Arakoth reflects the inspiration of looking to the skies and wondering about the stars and worlds beyond our own. It is situated in the Kuiper belt, which is relatively similar to an asteroid belt but much larger in size. Many objects wavering within the Kuiper belt are well preserved and frozen, similar to a time capsule, giving us an inside look on what the outer solar system was like after its initial conception. For over 4 billion years, the Kuiper belt is known as the solar system's third zone. Arakoth is also a trans-Neptunian object. Trans-Neptunian objects are dwarf or minor-sized planets in our solar system that are at a greater distance than Neptune. Arakoth checks in at 4 billion years old. It was discovered by Mark Buey using the Hubble Space Telescope. The observation was conducted by NASA's New Horizons science team. Announced data from Arakoth has given us an indication about the formation of planets and our cosmic origins. We believe this ancient body, composed of two distinct lobes that merged into one entity, may harbor answers that contribute to our understanding of the origin of life on Earth. Arakoth has a red tint that is actually more red than Pluto, making it the reddest outer solar system object discovered to date. Arakoth's amorphous shape is described by NASA as a snowman that's been partially flattened. It is two objects merged into one and is about 35 kilometers long, 20 kilometers wide, and 10 kilometers thick. Arakoth is the furthest object that has been explored by humans. It was identified when the probe was 6.4 billion kilometers from Earth, and it is an estimated 6.6 billion kilometers away from Earth. It takes Arakoth around 293 years to orbit the Sun once. Arakoth could give scientists answers that they have been searching decades for. There are two situations scientists have debated concerning planetary formation. The first scenario is hierarchical accretion, where small grains and pebbles bounce around, occasionally hitting into each other with enough force to stick, making bigger and bigger objects. Eventually, over the course of millions of years, these planets would have compiled matter from random, forceful collisions. The second scenario is cloud collapse, where certain regions of the nebula had a higher density of particles, and these clumps were drawn towards each other until they spontaneously gravitationally collapsed. Unlike the forceful nature of hierarchical accretion collisions, cloud collapse collisions were leading to the planets being born. Dr. Alan Stern, the principal investigator of the New Horizons team, said, "The imagery shows no signs of violence, no fractures. The two lobes don't look smashed together, leaving room to certify the cloud collapse theory. The discovery of Arakoth has led to a possible revolutionary breakthrough." A planetary scientist at Washington University in St. Louis explained, "It tells us some profound truths about our solar system. It's a remarkable world that's told us a remarkable story." The information exposed left the New Horizons team confused, debating if Arakoth was more significant than the probe's first encounter with Pluto in 2015. It will be exciting to see where the discovery of 486958 Arakoth will take us and how it will help us understand the astonishing complexity and inner workings of outer space. Scientists think they have detected a collision between a black hole and a neutron star. In the US and Italy, gravitational wave detectors picked up on space-time ripples passing through Earth courtesy of a collision between a black hole and a neutron star. To put things into perspective, the mass of an entire sun is squeezed by gravity into a ball the size of a city. It may take you by surprise that the collision didn't produce any detectable light considering the severity of the situation. To grasp a greater understanding of the situation, we will have to delve into what black holes and neutron stars are. They are corpses of stars that are the result of calamitous explosions. These explosions are known as supernovas, which occur when a white dwarf is provoked into a runaway nuclear fusion or when a massive star is in its last evolutionary stages. Supernovas are actually fascinating, as these eruptions can make a star briefly outshine all of the other stars in its galaxy. After a star has undergone supernova, the core of its remains collapses under the strength of its own gravitational pull. What happens next is what decides what the remnant will become. A smaller core forms a neutron star. A larger core forms a black hole. Gravitational waves are disturbances in the curvature of spacetime that create a ripple effect propelled from accelerated masses. This causes waves to emit outwards at speeds of light from whatever the source may be. The theory of gravitational waves was first introduced to us in 1915 by a theoretical physicist Albert Einstein with the prediction that waves would be conceived from massive accelerating objects. These waves would ripple through the fabric of space and time. In 2015, 100 years later, Einstein's prediction was brought into fruition as a result of a collision of two black holes. This so-called happenstance occurred again in 2017 in the event where two neutron stars collided. The gravitational waves that were endured in August are being theorized by scientists as the aftermath caused by a collision that actually took place 1 billion years ago. In the circumstance that this event is confirmed, it will mark the beginning of a new era of astrophysical studies, with implications for how researchers understand Einstein's general theory of relativity, the deaths of stars, and the behavior of extreme matter. Researchers have a sense of cultivated confidence that this collision between a black hole and a neutron star is not an anomaly. Although there is still so much more to outer space than what we have covered today, it gives us a greater appreciation and a year to learn more about our infinite universe. What do you make of these space discoveries? Scientists continue to debate whether other forms of life may exist throughout the universe. But those who believe we are not alone are also interested by the different methods of contact we could use in the future. Michio Kaku predicts alien contact. Michio Kaku has gained a reputation as a renowned physicist and futurist. Having written numerous books on scientific topics, gained popularity as a presenter, and achieved recognition as the co-founder of string field theory, he is well regarded as an authority in the field of science. Michio made headlines when he claimed that humans would encounter alien life forms within this century. Michio stated, "I think we will pick up a signal from an intelligent civilization in outer space in this century. However, that doesn't mean we'll have a two-way conversation. They could be many hundreds of light years away, so it would take hundreds of years for a conversation to take place. But when that takes place, when we do eavesdrop on an intelligent civilization in outer space, that could be a turning point in the history of civilization on Earth." He claims that life throughout the Milky Way is inevitable, adding that when we look out into the night sky, we must realize that someone could be looking back, also wondering if other life forms may exist in our solar system. Michio also claims that we won't just find any signs of life, but also intelligent life. Our galaxy is potentially packed with billions of Earth-like planets that could host a variety of different life forms. Although the actual number of exoplanets far exceeds the 4,000 that have already been recorded and verified, the number of Earth-like planets in our galaxy is estimated to be around 6 billion. Michio explains that when we do encounter life on other planets, we would first need to determine what category of species they are, breaking them down into 3 types. Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3 civilizations. A Type 1 civilization would be roughly 100 years more advanced than our current state on Earth. A Type 2 civilization would be stellar and would be a few thousand years ahead of us. A Type 3 civilization would be over 100,000 years more advanced, be able to control black holes and roam space at will. Kaku highlights the dangers we face when encountering other life forms, as we are Type 0. He claims we would need to identify the type of civilization they are and the threat they pose. Though Michio thinks that for the most part they will leave us be, as there's no need to plunder our planet for resources, but they will no doubt be curious. Earth and other planets seeded with life. Scientists around the world dedicate years of their lives in search for answers to life's biggest questions. This is no different for 2 astrophysicists from Harvard who have proposed a theory on how life might have spread throughout the cosmos. Though the theory has initially been viewed with skepticism, Amir Sarraj and Avi Loeb claim their theory should be taken seriously, and if anything is too conservative when it comes to calculating how many times life exporting events from Earth have actually occurred. So the theory is, back when the solar system was more packed millions or billions of years ago, a gigantic comet came close to the outer reaches of our atmosphere. It was swiftly moving, several miles above the Earth's surface, too high to burn up as a fireball, but low enough that the atmosphere slowed it down. Exceptionally robust microbes were drifting up in its path, and some of those microbes survived the impact of the comet. These microbes ended up concealed deep within the comet's porous exterior, shielded from the radiation of deep space as the comet soared away from Earth and finally out of the solar system entirely. Thousands and millions of years went by before the comet ended up in another solar system with habitable planets. Finally, the comet collided into one of those planets, deposited the microbes, with many of them still living, and set up a new position for earthly life in the cosmos. Whether or not this actually happened is unknown, as there's no solid evidence that proves it. However, the pair of astrophysicists at Harvard claim that the depositing of microbes into a comet which is then ejected from the solar system should have happened, and not just once but a few dozen times throughout the Earth's history. While the theory has been met with skepticism, there's actually good reason to suggest it's possible. In the 1970s, tests were carried out using a series of small rockets, which identified colonies of bacteria in the upper atmosphere. Comets do enter and leave our solar system now and again. A large comet could have grazed the Earth, and while comets are porous, it may have protected the microbes from radiation for surprisingly long periods in space. Siraj and Loeb suggested this happened multiple times, which may have caused other planets to be seeded with living microbes. One popular theory as to how life started on Earth also involves life being brought here on a comet which crashed into the Earth, kickstarting life as we know it. So our planet may have been seeded or may have caused others in turn to be seeded. Stephen Hawking warns against contact with alien civilizations. During the last few years of his life, the famed physicist Stephen Hawking repeatedly warned humanity of the impending dangers we would face if we made contact with alien life forms. Hawking claimed that other life forms would try and destroy human civilization, but despite his allegation, he also helped to launch efforts to search for other intelligent life forms in the universe. When discussing the topic of finding other civilizations, he frequently referred to the history of humanity, as so often we've mistreated and even wiped out less advanced civilizations, so why would alien life forms not do the same to us? Despite this, however, it seems that his desire to seek out other life forms was greater than his fear. He was part of a new initiative called Breakthrough Listen that intended to listen for alien signals in the universe, without broadcasting our own. Many scientists have voiced their concerns about broadcasting signals from Earth to other planets. A second breakthrough initiative is Breakthrough Message, which launched a competition with a $1 million prize to try to encourage members of the public to come up with ways in which we could send messages out into the cosmos in the hopes of contacting alien life. Though there are currently no plans to broadcast the signals, the competition will run purely out of curiosity for the moment. Hawking spoke about his fear at a breakthrough event, stating, "We don't know much about aliens, but we know about humans. If you look at history, contact between humans and less intelligent organisms have often been disastrous from their point of view, and encounters between civilizations with advanced versus primitive technologies have gone badly for the less advanced. A civilization reading one of our messages could be billions of years ahead of us. If so, they will be vastly more powerful and may not see us as any more valuable than we see bacteria." In 2010, Hawking expressed, "Such advanced aliens would perhaps become nomads, looking to conquer and colonize whatever planets they could reach. As humans now look to become a multi-planet species, other more intelligent life forms may have already achieved it, possibly plundering other planets for resources and establishing new colonies." Contrary to Hawking's fearful approach to reaching out to other civilizations, other scientists have taken a more positive approach, which are hopeful of a more cooperative future. Andrew Yen, co-founder and CEO of Cosmos Studios, is one of those more hopeful and voiced we may get to a stage in our future where we exceed our evolutionary baggage and evolve to become less violent and short-sighted. Hope is that extraterrestrial civilizations are not only more technologically proficient than we are, but more aware of the rarity and preciousness of life in the cosmos. Jill Tata, former director of the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, also expressed more positive opinions about contacting alien civilizations. While Sir Stephen Hawking warned that alien life might try to conquer or colonize Earth, I respectfully disagree. If aliens were to come here, it would be simply to explore. Consider the age of the universe, we probably wouldn't be their first extraterrestrial encounter either. If aliens were able to visit Earth, that would mean they would have technological capabilities sophisticated enough not to need slaves, food, or other planets. While scientists have different opinions as to how we should go about alien contact, if at all, the desire to know what else might be out there is something which piques human curiosity, and something many of us want to know the answer to. The truth is out there. It is only a matter of time before we find it. But what do you make of these interesting predictions involving extraterrestrial life? Technology is always improving. Scientists and researchers are experimenting with technology more than ever. What this means is that we are making breakthroughs in different departments, and one of these is that of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence makes it possible for machines to learn from experience. This means that repetitive actions will be picked up much quicker. This is why researchers have come forward and said that certain jobs will be lost to artificial intelligence. Movements, especially those that require repetitive movements. Various experiments have been announced over the years, with some questioning whether we should be playing around with things like AI. For example, it was announced not too long ago that Facebook was using chatbots. The reason this made the news was because the AI chatbots did something unexpected. Although the bots were given specific scripts to use, they seemingly began communicating with one another in their own language. Humans were unable to understand communication between the chatbots or grasp how it was developed with no human input. This information is kind of scary but yet impressive, as it speaks to where we stand with artificial intelligence and what it's capable of. Again, though, this calls on to question whether we're out of our depths when it comes to AI, and whether we should be experimenting with it. In 2018, Harvard scientists hooked a monkey's brain up to a neural network. At first, people questioned why they'd want to do this, but the researchers said they did it to try and simulate individual neurons. The neurons in question are responsible for recognizing different patterns and phases, and the scientists attempted to activate those particular neurons, but showing the monkeys images created by this deep learning artificial intelligence. One of the monkeys they tried this on was Ringo, and the Harvard scientists said that different photographs were shown to the monkeys, and these were created by an artificial intelligence algorithm called Xtreme. Before people get worried, though, Ringo wasn't tied up or in any pain when this experiment was taking place. In fact, the scientists said he was very comfortable throughout the whole thing, and actually sat in the Harvard lab sipping an orange juice. While the monkey was happy enjoying his juice, the researchers flickered images in front of his eyes. The AI system quickly learned to generate images which would trigger individual brain cells. Incredibly, this was done without activating any of their neighbors. The AI system did do this until it got a response from the neurons. And what's incredible, though, is that the artificial intelligence was able to trigger the neurons in the monkey's brain to create images that resembled faces. The whole idea behind this was to see if this technology could allow us to ask the neurons what they wanted to see. This is uncharted territory, and further tests will need to be carried out. Interestingly, this isn't the only test that's linking artificial intelligence and brains. Elon Musk has detailed more about his neural link. It's his recent vision that involves AI brain gyms. The company was first set up back in 2018, and as stated on their website, they plan on developing ultra-high bandwidth brain-machine interfaces to connect humans and computers. Elon has even gone as far as saying that this technology could even treat brain injury and trauma. While on the Joe Rogan podcast, he went into more detail about the company and what they plan on doing. Elon said the following: "There's still a lot of work to do, but I think we're looking at within a year. I think we have a chance of putting input in one end, having them be healthy and restoring some functionality that they've lost. This isn't science fiction either." The company has brought on various high-profile neuroscientists from top universities. By mid-2019, the company has over $158 million in backing. Some have found it interesting that Elon has gone down this path. After all, he's been very vocal about the dangers of AI, and even suggested that in time, artificial intelligence could take over. He warned people about superintelligence, a form of artificial intelligence that's way smarter than us humans. He stated that this AI could create an immortal dictator. His worry is that the development of superintelligence could end up in the form of AI that governs the whole world. Elon said the following: "There are many outcomes, but one of the least scary ones is if we had a company or small group of people that manages the superintelligence. This type of technology could take over the world." He went on to say the following: "At least when there's an evil dictator, that human is going to pass away. But for an AI, there would be no death. It would live forever, and then you have an immortal dictator from which we can never escape." That sounds worrying, and rightly so. Elon isn't trying to scare people, but is trying to make them understand what implications artificial intelligence could have on the world. Currently, we use AI for everything, and he says it won't be long before it's controlling us completely. Early AI work has allowed us to be where we are today, and it seems that we're not slowing down. Elon has also stated that he thinks the human race will be overtaken by artificial intelligence by 2030 or 2040. That doesn't seem too bad, but in reality it only gives us 10 years. This study has said that machines could outperform humans in all tasks within 45 years. The stats were gathered from a survey of more than 350 artificial intelligence researchers. However, the study says that within 7 years computers will be better at translating languages, and by 2026 they could be writing our school essays. Another worry is the manipulation of information. Algorithms could be used to affect certain information. Because AI is good at repeating, it could report negative news on certain businesses or individuals. The future of artificial intelligence is uncertain. But researchers have said that people should get used to the idea of robots and AI, and it seems they will be very much a part of our future. Every year, researchers and scientists are making breakthroughs that hopefully will allow humans and machines to live side by side. There are those that have warned us about testing with AI though, and that it easily has the capabilities to outsmart humans, demonstrated when the two AIs created its own language to get past humans. It's examples like this that have made some people worried, but researchers have said that as of right now, the majority of testing is under control. Only time will tell whether we made the right decision to continue experimenting. So what do you make of artificial intelligence and the fact that it's become a part of our everyday life? Also, would you guys have one of these implantable brain-machine interfaces? Area 51 is synonymous with UFOs. The base is at the center of a number of mysteries, with various individuals coming forward over the years who have claimed to have worked there, and they've backed up some of these stories. It's these sorts of claims that have put the base on the map, and it's arguably one of the most famous known military installations. Although the base has been a talking point for years, featured in movies and visited by countless people, its secrets are still well hidden. Interestingly, although Area 51 is known for UFOs, aliens and reverse engineering of alleged alien crafts, not many UFOs or strange events are reported from this location. It's no secret that there's a lot of strange goings-on at Area 51, with the base being heavily guarded and people not being able to get close to it without being monitored. It's these examples that have led some to believe that there's strange things going on at the base, and that the general public will never be able to get close to the base for these reasons. However, one thing that people have turned to is things like Google Maps. Scott C. Waring is a UFO researcher that has discovered many interesting anomalies over the years, and one of the most recent ones comes from the base itself. He claims that when he was using Google Earth, he saw something interesting at the base, and that it may be the latest tech that engineers are working on. He suggests that Area 51 workers may be building a giant robot, and claims that these Google F images backs up those claims. He said the following about the discovery. When I was searching Google F today, I came across something that is really strange. I found a 16-meter dark figure in Area 51, and there seems to be another to the right of it, but shorter. When I checked through the past photos of this location, I noticed that the figure actually moves onto its side, then changes its poses in each photo. It actually moves. Perhaps some United States Air Force soldiers playing around, or perhaps Air Force 51 is experimenting with 16-meter-tall robots that could one day be used in combat missions. This discovery was posted to a few UFO groups where they suggested that it does look like a robot. Others, though, said that this is pareidolia, and what we're seeing is likely a hangar of some kind. One of the issues is where Area 51 is shrouded in mystery. When these types of discoveries are made that usually get posted around to UFO rooms. It's just the latest discovery to come from the mysterious base, with people suggesting that there's much stranger stuff going on inside the base itself. The reason people say this is because of the sheer amount of security surrounding the base. It sits inside a dry lake bed inside the Nevada desert, and the closest you can legally get to it is 26 miles away on Tikaboo Peak. Tikaboo Peak is the place where UFO enthusiasts go to get a closer look at the famous Area 51. It sits high above the base and gives those who make it a great look at the base. It's noted as being a difficult trek. Those who want to climb it will have to trek over 1.2 miles. And although this doesn't sound like a lot, It's not the easiest trail. It's very steep, and those must climb over 1,000 feet in elevation before they reach Tigaboo Peak. Although the views at the top are breathtaking, and those that have climbed it have said it's well worth it, others have said they are disappointed with how small Area 51 looks from the summit. After all, it is 26 miles away. Others have said, though, that something strange might happen when you reach the top. Two men who made the trek said that once they reached the top, they could see a blacked-out helicopter quickly approaching them. One of them noted that it was flying extremely low, and that when it got close it didn't pull away or gain height. It flew right over the top of them, leaving only a few meters. The men said the audio was quite frightening, and suspected that the helicopter had come from Area 51. When asked why they thought it flew over so closely, they had this to say: "Something tells me this might have been a warning of sorts. After all, we did climb up there to see the views of Area 51. Others have told me that they can track what you're saying from this distance. And maybe there's a chance they sent the helicopter out to intimidate us." I have to say that it worked. It was quite frightening seeing this massive helicopter coming towards us at that speed. And the fact that it didn't pull up is something that I won't forget. It's an incredible view when you make it to the top. But there is a possibility that a massive helicopter could charge you. This type of behavior isn't uncommon either. Although Area 51 is a secret base, it's actually quite well known. This is because of the various things that have come out about the base over the years. Although these make for fascinating stories, there's no solid evidence for them being true. One of the first things you'll notice when you're traveling close to the base is that it's marked with orange poles. These are mainly here to tell you that your trespassing and photography isn't allowed. Guards can be seen around the perimeter of the bays, and they immediately appear before you can even get close to the bays. Over the years, they've become known as the Camo Dudes. This is because of their clothing. They can be observed driving around in 4x4 cars and dealing with people who stray too close to the bays. One interesting thing to note is that they're supposedly told not to look at the public. If you're caught by these guards, they do have the right to take away any photographs or video footage you've taken. Sensors can be found littered across the perimeter of the base, and even the road that leads down to Area 51. The minute you start driving or walking on these sensors, the guards are alerted. This is why they're always there before you are. Area 51 has been a top-secret base for years, and for a very long time it was shrouded in mystery. It's only been in recent years that we've found little information about it. Satellite imaging of the base itself is believed to be edited or tampered with, and considering it's quite nearly impossible to get reliable footage of areas even surrounding the military base, the contents and its safely protected border is still a mystery to the general public. So what do you guys make of this recent discovery made at Area 51? And what do you make of the base itself? What do you think is going on there? 2020 has been a tough year. Various people have struggled, and this has caused tensions to rise. It seems, though, that it's not just humans that are struggling. The natural world is also taking a hint, whether that comes in the form of natural habitats being demolished or just animals struggling to survive in general. A few days ago, it was announced that hundreds of thousands, if not millions of birds, have passed away. This news was worrying, and people soon started to ask questions. Biologists working at the New Mexico State University in the White Sands Missile Range collected and examined nearly 300 birds that had mysteriously passed away. The researchers stated that over the last few weeks, rare species passed away under mysterious circumstances, and that many of these were put under unknown causes. Martha Desmond, who is a professor at New Mexico State University Department of Fish, Wildlife and Conservation Ecology, said that the sheer amount of birds that had passed away was worrying. She went on to say the following: "It's terribly frightening. We've never seen anything like this. We're losing probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of migratory birds." Her first researchers said that it may have been an isolated incident. But the more these birds were being discovered showed researchers that this might not have been the case and that something worrying was happening. Local residents then came forward and said that local wildlife had been behaving strangely and that various birds were not acting or flying like normal. At the time, though, These residents didn't know that millions of birds were about to pass away for unknown reasons. As of right now, some of the affected birds include warblers, sparrows, swallows, blackbirds, and flycatchers. Martha Desmond went on to say the following: a number of these species are already in trouble. They are already experiencing huge population declines. And then to have a traumatic event like this is devastating. Trish Cutler, who is a wildlife biologist, said the following about the event. People have been reporting that the birds look sleepy. They are just really lethargic. One thing we're not seeing is our resident birds mixed in with these dead birds. We have resident birds that live here. Some of them migrate and some of them don't. But we're not getting birds like roadrunners or quails or doves. Martha Desmond did note that some of these birds must be healthy, as they have their migratory feathers, but said that something is happening after this process that's wiping the birds out. Going on to say that this isn't just a few birds. Something massive is happening that's caused all of these birds to drop. Another thing that added confusion was that people suggested that it may have been the insects the birds were eating that caused them to drop. But the biologist noted that some of these birds were seed eaters and suffered the same fate. As of right now, many of these birds are having tests carried out on them. And this is happening at the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's Forensic Laboratory in Ashland. The researchers there hope that further analysis will help them answer why so many birds suffered the same fate. Desmond said the following: over 3 billion birds have died since 1970. Insect populations are crashing. And this is just an unprecedented mortality. What's worrying is that this has been reported across our planet. Going back in February, residents in Rome reported a worrying event. Hundreds of birds suddenly dropped to the ground. And this news came shortly after police in North Wales investigated a similar occurrence. In this case, hundreds of birds had dropped to the ground under mysterious circumstances, something investigators immediately found strange. Fast forward 2 months, and this was reported by residents in Rome. Strangely enough, residents reported that the birds acted very similar to those in Wales, saying that they were flying around in circles and then suddenly dropped to the ground. What's odd there is how many of these cases are happening so close to each other. As many have pointed out, it seems that these mass-bred dials are happening every other month. And as of right now, no one seems to know why. Although researchers have given a variety of reasons why mass bird deaths can happen, it's unusual for them to be happening around the same time as each other. One resident in Rome said the following about the event. Me and my friend were close to the area when this happened. We could hear the birds going crazy and flying around in circles. I've lived in the area for years and I've never seen anything like this. No one seemed to be sure why they were acting this way. They were flying like this for over 45 minutes before they started to drop one by one. It was like something from a movie and it was actually really scary. It was like something was affecting them and we couldn't see it. It's reported that hundreds of birds were found in Rome shortly after the event. One source reported that the mass die-off was due to strong winds. As you can imagine though, this explanation wasn't met with open arms, and others suggested that something else was at play. Over the years, scientists and researchers have investigated this phenomena, and different theories have been put forward to try and explain it. Various things can affect these burns. This ranges from electromagnetic currents to things like poison. As Summer pointed out though, if these animals were poisoned, is it likely that they would all drop at once, and in the same area as each other? In these situations, all of these birds can be found close to each other. Some have said it's as if the birds were zapped by something, and whatever passed through them caused them to pass away on the spot. It does seem as if though these cases have increased in the past year. Various reports have emerged from countries such as England, Wales, the Netherlands, and now Italy. And these are only the ones we know about. Many eyewitnesses have come forward and said they've seen something similar, but that the majority of the time it doesn't get reported by the news. As of right now, it's clear that something is affecting these burns, with some pointing out that these cases could be linked to each other in some way. Perhaps our planet is changing, or perhaps we're the cause behind these events. This hasn't stopped people though coming forward with their own theories for why this is happening. Some suggest that 5G in recent towers that have been installed could be messing around with the bird senses, saying that radio wave emissions can cause damage to the birds. The companies who install these towers, though, have said this isn't what's happening, and that it has nothing to do with 5G. Whatever it is, it seems that this won't be the last case that gets reported. So what do you make of this recent report from New Mexico? And what do you think is going on at the moment in regards to these high numbers of bird deaths? Sky watching is something that many people do. For some it's calming, and for others it's a way to escape everyday life. Watching the sky at night can help to reduce stress, and sometimes you'll even see something interesting. For example, a meteorite flying past. However, there are those that have seen mysterious things, and this has caused some to spend countless hours sky watching in the hopes of capturing something interesting. It seems though that most people are actually unsuccessful in seeing something strange, and as fate would have it, the majority of people who do see mysterious things are usually just going about their everyday life and isn't expecting to see anything strange. This was the case for one truck driver who spotted something mysterious in the sky. The driver describes seeing a mysterious object in the sky while walking back to his trunk. They were able to record the object for a minute before they said it vanished. Interestingly, when shared online, it caused various people to put forward different theories for what it could be, with some saying that it may have been an unidentified flying object, a drone, or even a portal that opened up. Square-shaped UFOs are not uncommon, and various people have recorded these objects in various countries. UFOs doesn't mean aliens, it's just an object that can't be identified at that moment in time. Although the footage is a little blurry, the drivers said they tried the best they could to record it, and that it didn't help that the weather conditions were super windy. Regardless, they managed to record the object. The driver said the following: "I'm a truck driver, and while walking back to my truck, I saw this object. I went to find a high viewpoint and it was gone." After being posted to online UFO groups, some suggested that it may have been a plastic bag or a piece of garbage. However, others were not open to this idea because the object in question does not flap around. Rather, it just looks to be flying at a moderate speed. Take a look at the footage. UFO sightings are nothing new. For years, these mysterious crafts have been reported from various regions across our planet, with some ancient scriptures proving that they've been around since the time of the airplane. It's this and the thousands of sightings that are reported every year that make people believe that perhaps we're not being told the truth about these crafts. After all, if you have a craft that's able to travel vast distances in a matter of seconds, this could be considered dangerous if it got into the wrong hands. It's for this reason and various others that people say we're kept in the dark. Or at least we were. Interestingly, the government seems to be more open to discussing unidentified flying objects, and this has caused some to think that perhaps an announcement is on the way. After all, the government hasn't exactly been open to the idea of extraterrestrial life, even going as far as mocking it and those who believe in it. Different shaped crafts had been reported, with some being more common than others. The most common shaped UFOs reported are those of the disc, triangle, orb, cigar, and boomerang. Interestingly, recent reports that came from Eric W. Davis, who works at the United States Department of Defense, states that the United States government is in possession of recovered off-road vehicles. Although skeptics have been quick to claim that Eric W. Davis is nothing more than a fraud making outrageous claims, key figures have also come forward to address the claims, including the former director of the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, Luis Elizondo. Additionally, in regards to the program and its ties to the passing of the Intelligence Authorization Act, former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid commented that he'd been involved in the effort and hopes that the UFO investigation program will seek further evidence of other potential recoveries of extraterrestrial crafts. Even the acting chairman of the Senate-elect Committee of Intelligence, Marco Rubio, provided an official statement saying the following: "Maybe there is a completely sort of boring explanation for it, but we need to find out," expressing concern that the increased reports of unidentified crafts over American military is definitely seen as a threat to the national security of the United States. Although Marco Rubio believes the sightings could be attributed to a possible technological leap made by China or Russia, Eric Davis and Luis Elizondo are far more certain of the crafts originating from an off-world source. Across several interviews for mass media outlets, Luis Elizondo claimed that not only do these crafts exhibit behaviors that appear to defy the very laws of aviation, but that these crafts were found to be 100% not man-made and were out of the scope of human capabilities. His reasoning for this claim was that the crafts investigated demonstrated hypersonic capabilities that were described as being far beyond the scope that's physically tolerable by a human being, of whom would experience a high amount of juice to the point that it would either be fatal or seriously wound them. This meant that whoever or whatever was piloting these aircrafts appeared to be non-human. Not only this, but the technical developments of the crafts also made it very apparent that the creation of these unidentified flying objects were vastly superior to anything man-made. Luis Elizondo describes in one of his many reports regarding the subject matter as saying the following: "There is a lot we really don't know. We have identified anomalous aircrafts, a craft that does not have any obvious flight surfaces, forms of propulsion, and maneuvering in ways that include extreme maneuverability beyond the healthy G-forces of anything biological, low observability, and positive lift. These aircraft, will call them aircraft display capabilities not in the U.S. arsenal or any other militaries." This finding urges the Department of Defense to treat the existence of these crafts not as random sightings and made-up accounts, but rather as genuine worries and threats that must be actively defended against, and analyze and attempt to reverse engineer the mechanisms behind the graft, and to devise ways to deactivate them, and prepare for an eventual confrontation with these unidentified grafts. So what do you guys make of this? And what do you think this object is? The controversial singer, dancer, and songwriter Michael Jackson was a significant celebrity, constantly in the public eye during his lifetime, and he hasn't had much luck escaping it now either. Michael Jackson is a household name. Whether you remember him for his dance moves or the Jackson 5, he truly was a defining figure of the 80s. But the iconic king of pop left us with some puzzles to work through. The letters. The high-profile celebrity was preparing for his comeback tour in 2009 when he tragically passed away. Michael Jackson went into cardiac arrest due to an excessive combination of medicines, with his autopsy revealing significant quantities of propofol, anxiolytic lorazepam, and anesthetic in his system. Medicines that were administered to him by Dr. Conrad Murray. Michael Jackson, according to close friend Michael Jacobs-Hagen, had been using this medication to treat insomnia for more than a decade. This combination was ultimately lethal and should not have been prescribed to treat insomnia. Therefore, Dr. Conrad Murray was convicted and blamed for the passing of Michael Jackson due to medical negligence and sentenced to 4 years behind bars, beginning in November 2011. Despite this tragic and unfair end to his life, some speculation has arisen suggesting that the pop star's passing was no mistake. 13 handwritten notes were discovered, in which Jackson insisted and predicted he would pass away due to an immoderate medication intake. This belief that his life was taken away is held by his sister LaToya, his daughter Paris Jackson, and the friend who received the notes, Michael Jacobs-Hagen. The notes allegedly claimed to include phrases from Jackson that stated, "They are trying to take my life. They are trying to end it," with 13 notes detailing the same ominous message, followed by him passing away shortly afterwards. It should be no surprise that the rumors began to grow. Michael Jackson's notes referred to they a plurality of times, with no further explanation as to who they were. Despite a lack of definitive evidence, some have suggested the concert promoter's AEG may be this mysterious they, due to more of Jackson's notes mentioning being under intense pressure. Despite having possession of these letters since 2009, Jacobs-Hagen only shared them in 2017 in an effort to support Paris Jackson, Michael Jackson's daughter, who spoke out about her belief that her father's life was taken. As Paris elaborated, she specified that she thinks it is obvious his life was taken, with all of the family being aware of this fact. During his lifetime, the king of pop would supposedly drop hints and subtle clues about people being a threat out to get him or harm him. However, when Paris was asked to comment on who may have wanted to end the life of her father, she simply responded that a lot of people would, and declined to give specific names. Was Michael Jackson an overly paranoid man, riddled with fear regarding passing away, or were his concerns and predictions correct? If his life was intentionally taken by an unnamed individual or company, is Dr. Conrad Murray wrongfully behind bars? With the mystery surrounding him passing away only growing with time, it is growing increasingly likely that we will never untangle the web and figure out just how Michael Jackson passed away. Was it intentional or was this an accident? Michael Jackson's ghost can allegedly be seen at Neverland Ranch. Neverland Ranch, situated in Santa Barbara County, California, was Michael Jackson's home for 15 years after his purchase of the house in 1988. Since his passing away in 2009 until early 2020, Neverland Ranch was available for sale at $100 million. Whilst for some, the high price may be seen as the obvious deterrent, some think it is the recounting of ghost sightings that may be discouraging potential buyers. People who previously worked on the ranch say that they can see his ghost and that the Neverland Ranch has been haunted by the spirit of Michael Jackson since he passed away. One worker in particular, Marie Andre, spoke about how many of the staff members had seen Jackson walking through the grounds. She stated that Michael is there, his presence, his moves, and his breath. She continued to describe the encounters various workers have experienced, from workers being nervous or afraid at her sighting, to workers talking about him living there in a continuous tense that he still does and always will be found at Neverland Ranch. Neverland Ranch was originally called Zacaladeras Ranch and then later updated to Sycamore Valley, then was renamed by Michael Jackson himself, naming the estate after Peter. Currently, the ranch is not open to the public, though many have suggested the idea of tours being available. The average fan can travel as far as Neverland Ranch gates, where letters and messages from fans and critics alike can be found. Despite the ranch being closed to the public in 2014, anonymous photographers illegally entered the property and began to take photos. These photographers declared the only peculiar and creepy sightings to be the decor within the home, and that they didn't feel fear of any kind regarding the supernatural whilst at Neverland Ranch. It was an online magazine that released and published these stealthy images. With a market price of $100 million, can we truly be surprised the famous Neverland Ranch didn't sell? The 2,700-acre estate remains empty, abandoned, and rapidly deteriorating in its condition, with only Michael Jackson's ghost to keep it occupied. Perhaps it's the potential ghost that drove away possible investors. Some people believe that he is still alive, while some fans claim to have seen his ghost wandering and haunting, and some truly believe his life was taken. Others insist he never passed away at all. Some fans think Michael Jackson faked his passing, presumably to get out of the spotlight, and is now living a low-profile life out of the critical public eye. Is he living the most peaceful life possible, or is he waiting for a comeback, where he will return to fame? Once again, even those who believe he is still living remain divided on these possibilities. Despite an autopsy and the imprisonment of Dr. Conrad Murray, this apparently isn't quite enough evidence that the king of pop is no longer with us. One of the primary pieces of alleged evidence for his loss of life being faked, and the one that ultimately sparked this bizarre theory, is the misspelling of his name on his certificate proving life extinct. Whilst Michael Jackson's passport read Michael Joe Jackson, Joe being named after his father, his certificate reads Michael Joseph Jackson. To many of us, this simply seems absurd, and that Joe is simply a shortened name of Joseph, but LaToya, Jackson's sister, confirmed that his middle name indeed was Joe. Another odd occurrence, adding fuel to the argument that Jackson is still living, is the supposed clue in Janet Jackson's 2015 song, The Great Forever. When the song was run through a video editor and slowed down, fans suspected they could hear the voice of Michael Jackson say, "Not too pleased with what you're digging. I'm just busy living my life." Some believe that this indicates that the star is still living and is releasing music through his sister, Janet Jackson. Skeptics, however, say that the similar sounds can be drawn between the entirety of Janet's Unbreakable album, which can be credited to the album being a form of a tribute towards Michael. Others, however, insist that the voice of Michael Jackson truly is hidden within this song. Further possible evidence contributing to the strange theory is the lack of name visible on his crypt, found in Forest Lawn Cemetery in Los Angeles. In 2018, a video was shared by LaToya on his birthday of his tomb. Many fans immediately noticed and questioned why there was no name visible, with many concluding it must mean he is not inside. The clip was posted to YouTube, which gained thousands of views in 2018. Yet another reason many suspect Michael Jackson is still alive and simply living a life outside of the spotlight is The Simpsons. The The Simpsons has become renowned for predicting things that have later happened. Notable examples being Donald Trump's presidency and the Ebola breakout. Michael Jackson faking his loss of life is apparently no exception. The Simpsons Season 3, Episode 1, entitled Stark Raving Dad, centers the idea of Michael Jackson passing away being faked. Within the episode, newspapers can be seen displaying the headline Michael Jackson hoax, and the plots around someone pretending to be Michael Jackson. Another piece of the puzzle is the 2016 Instagram selfie Paris Jackson posted, featuring a shadowy figure sat behind her in the car. While some believe this figure can be made out to be Michael Jackson, others deny that and insist the head people claim to be able to see is simply the headrest in the car. With so many people, with so many reasons, believing that Michael Jackson is still living, many skeptics have begun to question why so many things are not adding up. Perhaps he has left stardom for a simpler life, or maybe he did pass away in 2009. Michael Jackson, while he undeniably was a controversial figure, has been caught up in the public eye and media both during and after his lifetime. With so many opposing theories, it can be hard to decipher what is truly happening. But what do you make of these Michael Jackson mysteries? Mysteries are all around us, just waiting to be discovered. Each and every day, scientists and researchers across the world uncover more and more threads of the ever-expanding science of the universe. From the ancient artifacts to theoretical quandaries, our existence is one that is filled with and possibly fueled by discoveries.
Sealed ancient coffins.
Sealed ancient coffins in Egypt. Ancient Egypt has drawn the interest of humans for as long as the pyramids have stood on the desert sands of Giza. The fascinating world of pharaohs, hieroglyphics, and ancient gods has pulled interest from everywhere, ranging between the scientific and the conspiratorial. So it came as no surprise that the world would listen in awe when in September 2020 authorities in Egypt revealed the news that they had uncovered 13 ancient coffins, all of them totally sealed and left untouched for the past 2,500 years. Following a press conference from the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, a huge collection of ancient coffins was uncovered in Saqqara, a desert and ancient burial ground in the northernmost region of the country. Saqqara is an ancient necropolis composed of vast tomb systems hailing back to the peak of ancient Egyptian culture. The giant burial ground was used as a site to bury the deceased of the nearby city of Memphis, which was the capital city of ancient Egypt. The site is no stranger to amazing ancient artifacts, as Saqqara is home to mummies, monuments, and even pyramids. Yet what makes this recent discovery so important is these recent finds are in an unbelievable state of preservation. Only housed in wooden coffins, these mummies stand out from the thousands of other surrounding human remains because of their immaculate condition. Being completely sealed from any outside elements plays a large part. According to the release by the Egyptian ministry, the coffins were initially discovered on top of one another, hidden within a burial shaft that reaches 36 feet underground. As a testament to their condition, some of the coffin's delicate paintwork can still be seen, with pigments still visible after thousands of years of wear. The age of these remains means that the significance is even greater. Over the years, looters and opportunists from different periods have ransacked ancient burial grounds in hope of uncovering priceless treasures. In a gargantuan necropolis such as Saqqara, this means finding remains that have been untouched since burial are fairly rare. Work has only just begun, but researchers hope to find out more about the people buried in these coffins, along with their status in ancient Egyptian society. With such well-preserved specimens, scientists can hope to glean a significant amount of new information from these coffins, hopefully allowing our understanding of the ancient civilization to grow even wider. Currently, the ministry is preparing promotional videos on the exciting find, and we can hope that the discoveries may end up in a museum that is open to the public in the coming years. Giant hole in Siberian permafrost. When it comes to climate change, giant holes opening up in the middle of nowhere is probably the last thing you think of, but amazingly that's exactly what happened in the far north of Siberia. Spotted by a television crew that was flying over the Siberian landscape in the Yamal Peninsula, the enormous hole is another example of a newly discovered phenomenon of methane craters. massive gaping holes left by pockets of methane escaping from underground. The Siberian Times reported that the hole is a whopping 164 feet deep and was caused by a massive pocket of methane that had been stored underground as it rose to the surface. The emergence of the hole must have been an explosive sight to see, as debris and pieces of earth were found to have been blasted all around the vicinity, with some reaching hundreds of meters away. These holes are thought to be a direct side effect of the Anthropocene, the age of man-made climate change, yet we are only just starting to discover them and observe how they work. Other giant holes have been spotted in recent years too, with another found in the Amal Peninsula, northern Siberia, making headlines in August 2014. 16 have been found in the same area. Is because of where they are located. Siberia spans a significant portion of the Arctic, and many stretches of the region are vast, uninhabited wildlands. These remote areas have very little, if any, human activity, so more often than not, these bubbling holes go unnoticed until they finally pop and can be spotted easily from above. What is clear, however, is how humanity's effect on the climate appears directly responsible to this new, eerie phenomenon. As the Arctic warms due to the overall planet temperature increase, the important permafrost that covers massive areas of Siberia is beginning to thaw. This melting permafrost then releases methane, which in turn results in these giant holes. Methane is a significant factor when studying climate change, as it is actually far more effective as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide, the gas most commonly associated with man-made climate change. With a potency 84 times that of CO2, the sudden release of methane into the atmosphere could accelerate the already perceptible effects of our changing climate. More worryingly, this release could lead to a feedback loop, where the release of methane warms the planet, leading to more methane being released. Even more worryingly, scientists are concerned about what could be lying dormant in the ancient permafrost. Genuine concerns that ancient diseases could be lurking in a frozen state within the thousands of years-old ice. Our bodies would not be accustomed to diseases formed and fought off by our ancestors millennia ago, and modern science would struggle to find a cure quickly when caught unprepared. This sort of situation has actually already happened too. In 2016, a remote Arctic town in Russia was evacuated after an outbreak of anthrax swept through the population of 70 people. One child, a 12-year-old boy, even passed away due to the disease. Researchers traced the outbreak to surrounding permafrost, which had melted and worked its way into the local water system and soil. This kind of circumstance may be the first of its kind in modern history, but is more likely not the last. All of these factors mean that these giant holes exploding on Siberian landscapes need to be watched and monitored closely in the future. NASA discovers TIE Fighter galaxy not that long ago. In a galaxy that is very far away, scientists at NASA discovered something very unusual but something very interesting, a dream of every sci-fi lover. Discovered in August of 2020, NASA researchers announced that they had found a galaxy shaped like Darth Vader's TIE Fighter from the plus 554 bears an uncanny resemblance to the personal spacecraft of the film's iconic villain. Located in the Cassiopeia constellation of space, the galaxy is located 500 million light-years away from us. The reason the galaxy has such peculiar shape mostly comes down to what angle researchers can view the galaxy at, and it probably wouldn't look quite like a TIE Fighter if you were to view it from another angle. Still, the galaxy is an interesting find nonetheless, and scientists have actually labeled it as an active galaxy, meaning that the galaxy actually emits more light out into space than what all of its stars are capable of, some of which has captured the interest of scientists. The excess light seems to be produced by gamma rays from a supermassive black hole at the galaxy's center. This explains the section that is thinner in the middle. The wings of the TIE Fighter have an explanation too, as they are actually large clouds of gas and dust built up and heated by gravity and friction. According to communication network coverage on the Star Wars-related spotting, the TIE Fighter galaxy has a supermassive black hole at its center and is blasting out enormous amounts of energy. This is not the first strangely shaped galaxy that scientists have spotted. As technology and measuring instruments have become better equipped at recording far-off, scientists have discovered a galaxy shaped like a boomerang, one shaped like a sombrero, and even one shaped like a donut. The galaxy seen from far away will be forever remembered due to its unique shape and memory. But what do you make of these recent discoveries? Bigfoot sightings are becoming increasingly common, with the mystery surrounding the cryptid continuing to inspire our imaginations while also demonstrating our lack of understanding and knowledge about the world we live in. While many sightings are debunked as hoaxes, there are still credible witnesses that have and continue to come forward with new reports and evidence. Following the assassination of President William McKinley in 1901, Theodore Roosevelt became the 26th President of the United States. Despite his success in the White House, which earned him a second term, Theodore Roosevelt was also an experienced hunter and frontiersman who had nurtured a love for the outdoors from a young age. He spent years of his life tracking a variety of wildlife, the forests and mountainous regions of the American frontier to the more unique species of wildlife that populate the plains of Africa. Roosevelt captured his memoirs in a series of books, but in his 1893 work entitled The Wilderness Hunter, he tells the story of a fellow frontiersman who claimed to have had an encounter with a creature that resembles the more recent sightings of Bigfoot. The story was told to Roosevelt by an old hunter named Bauman. Bauman recalled the story as an event of his younger years, in which he and his friend headed out into the Montana Territory to trap beavers in a river valley. Bauman and his friend had traveled up the same mountain pass in which, a year prior, the half-eaten remains of a trapper had been discovered by some mining prospectors. These prospectors had come across the trapper's camp the previous night, and the circumstances surrounding his death were mysterious. Were unable to determine which creature had been responsible for the trapper's demise. Upon returning to their camp, Bauman and his companion realized that a bear had visited while they were gone and had rummaged through their belongings and destroyed their shelter, which at first did not seem strange. However, as Bauman's companion grew curious, he began to closely analyze the prints. Bauman's partner came back to the campfire, stared out into the darkness for a few moments, and made the startling claim that whatever had made the prints had been walking on two legs. After discussing the possibilities of what could have made the prints, both men headed off to bed. At around midnight, Bauman was awoken by a noise around the camp. He sat up, caught the strong scent of a wild beast, and saw the large body standing by the opening of the shelter. He grabbed his rifle and fired at the beast, before it ran off into the darkness of the thick forest trees. Bigfoot encounter at Ape Canyon. Ape Canyon is located to the northeast of Mount St. Helens in Washington state. The canyon acquired its name as a result of one of the most famous Bigfoot attacks in history. The attack happened on a summer's night in 1924 when a group of 5 miners who were staying in a cabin came under attack by a group of 8 men that were positioned on the ridges above. All 5 of the miners survived the attack and would go on to tell the same story of what had happened that night to the local news outlets. The miners claimed that before the attack started, they were all asleep in the cabin that they had built by hand. As they slept, a flurry of large rocks began to rain down on the camp from all sides. The miners took up arms and began to fire back at the beasts. At first, this helped suppress the attacks, only to begin again a few moments later. One of the miners recalled the moment when one of the beasts came close to the cabin and tried to reach through a hole in the structure in an attempt to grab an axe, but it was repelled before it had time to retrieve it from the building. As the siege continued until daybreak, the miners were able to gradually break free from the cabin, as one of the men named Fred Beck claimed he saw one of the creatures standing in the distance. He took aim at the creature and pulled the trigger, watching as it tumbled down into the gorge below. Fred Beck later wrote a book detailing the siege that he and his fellow miners experienced that night, but in the book he makes the claim that the creatures were actually extra-dimensional beings. Despite numerous theories, the store is enough to attract thousands of hikers to the spot each year. Although the original cabin is no longer there and the surrounding area was changed due to the eruption of Mount St. Helens in 1980. Bigfoot and UFO phenomena. While the reports of Bigfoot sightings continue to increase, theories relating to the origins of the cryptid continue to provoke curiosity, becoming even more complex and imaginative. John A. Keel, the author behind the Mothman prophecies, referred to creatures like Bigfoot as ultra-terrestrials, a species that can cross dimensions freely. While Bigfoot sightings are common, their behavior is often different. While many reports suggest the creatures are hostile, there is also numerous reports that suggest a more gentle nature. A vile stench is often said to precede them, as well as tree knocking, screams, or even revealing themselves briefly before vanishing into thin air. Despite giving humans signs of their presence, they have still managed to evade human contact for hundreds of years, ever since the first reported sightings. Though numerous signs are often reported before Bigfoot sightings, UFO phenomena is one of the most common. It is estimated that around 20% of all Bigfoot sightings coincide with unidentified flying objects in the same area. One account of a UFO and Bigfoot originates from an 1888 meeting between cattle ranchers and a group of Native Americans in Northern California. The natives had described 3 crazy bears that came down from the sky in a small craft. The craft left the creatures in the woods before flying off. Another report was made by a woman in Ohio in 1973. The mother and daughter were both asleep when around midnight, a beam of light came down from an umbrella-shaped craft in the sky. Upon seeing whether light was shining in the woods, they noticed grayish simian beings walking towards the beam. Within a short amount of time, both the beings and craft had disappeared. The CIA also investigated a coinciding report of Bigfoot and a UFO at Presque Isle State Park in Erie, Pennsylvania. On July 31, 1966, the report was filed alongside thousands of other UFO reports as part of the infamous Project Blue Book. For tourists from New York were visiting the popular destination when their car became stuck in the sand after a day relaxing on the beach, and was sent to call a tow truck. The other 3 stayed in the car and waited for help, until at around 10 p.m., a police patrol car stopped to see if the group were all right. The group were informed that a tow truck was on the way to help, and so the police officers said they would call back within the hour to ensure they had managed to pull their car free. After approximately 35 minutes, the police returned, only to be told by one of the members that they had just witnessed something strange hovering above the woods. The officers, along with Douglas Tibbetts, one of the members of the group, went out into the woods to investigate what they had seen. The remaining 2 members of the group stayed with the car until the others returned. The officers and Tibbetts managed to walk roughly 300 yards from the car before they heard the car's horn, which caused them to turn around and hurry back to the car. As soon as they arrived, the 2 women who were left with the car were visibly shaken, claiming they had just witnessed a dark figure larger than a man with a big head and wide shoulders, no hands or face visible, as though it had its back turned lumbered into the bushes. The creature was also heard to be scratching at the car's roof before one of the members had sounded the horn, which scared the creature away. Investigators later dismissed the report as being a raccoon. However, they were sure it was something more. Their description did not match that of a raccoon and accompanied the sighting of a UFO just above the woods. It was almost certainly something more mysterious. The UFO was said to have been an angular craft, which emitted red and orange lights. It then descended towards the beach before emitting a beam of white light which seemed to be tracking something in the woods, just moments before the women had encountered the humanoid creature. The UFO then ascended into the night sky and flew off at an incredible speed heading north. After the event, officers returned to the spot where the UFO had been seen, and they noticed 2 triangular-shaped marks embedded in the ground. The officer writing the report said, "I have no reasonable explanation of the UFO," and he described the witnesses as creditable. What do you make of these Bigfoot stories? Stories of UFOs and aliens have been around for centuries. Whether you last heard about a possible sighting in a documentary, or you've got your own personal anecdote, people claiming to have seen aliens and UFOs is certainly nothing new. With technology and science continuously advancing, many think it's only a matter of time before we find an alternate life form. As the prospect of finding alien life grows more likely, it's time to take UFO sightings more seriously than we have in the past. Russian astronaut on the ISS claims to see UFOs in new footage. The International Space Station, known as the ISS, has been home to many discoveries, equipment, and even people. The ISS stays in low Earth orbit at a height of 408 kilometers, serving as a science lab in space. It facilitates wondrous advancements in space exploration. Expedition 63 is in progress. The three-man crew aboard the ISS consists of Christopher Cassidy, Anatoly Ivanishin, and Ivan Vanner. Perhaps the most unique aspect of Expedition 63 is the bizarre video clip that Vanner tweeted. The video, shared to Twitter on the 19th of August 2020, aimed to show the southern lights passing by Antarctica and Australia. However, the green swirls were overlooked by many, as the video features something more unusual. For 3 seconds within the time-lapse clip, making approximately 52 seconds in real time, 5 objects can be seen, flying alongside one another in synchrony. Wagner accompanied this video with the caption referring to space guests. Does this mean he believed he's seen UFOs? It remains unknown precisely when the footage was captured. Wagner didn't witness the events firsthand, and the rest of his team are yet to comment on the video. We do know, however, that Roscosmos, the Russian space agency, are conducting further research. The video is currently under review, being investigated by the Space Research Institute of the Russian Academy of Science experts, though it's currently too early into examination for their thoughts to be shared. Although naming these 5 objects alien spacecrafts or space guests is certainly the most exciting option, the more level-headed and less open-minded among us have been searching for alternative explanation. Many believe that what Wagner filmed were not space guests as he suggested, but instead meteors, or the most common belief, the Starlink satellites. Starlink is the exciting yet troublesome endeavor to provide internet to every corner of the globe, achieved by launching a total of 12,000 satellites into Earth's orbit. The project is one of SpaceX's, Elon Musk's company, and is certainly seen as rather problematic. Starlink has received heavy criticism, particularly from astronomers, whose concern centers the satellites being an obstruction of the way of the view of our cosmos. This therefore limits research that would expand our understanding of the universe. Even though we've seen the video footage with our own eyes, is believing really that simple? Are these unidentified aerial phenomena an alien spacecraft or simply more satellites, most likely associated with Starlink? A fast radio burst caused by aliens. Communicating with alien life force has been a goal in science for decades. Now we're being advised to heed the warnings as to the trouble it may cause. Could other life forms be trying to reach us, trying to communicate and interact? If so, what does this mean for the human race? Fast radio bursts, or FRBs, are intense pulses of radio waves emitted from an unknown source in the universe. They last merely milliseconds, but have sparked a great deal of research and discussion. For a significant amount of time, they've been considered to come from pulsars, a neutron star with a strong magnetic force. Though we've only seen them in neighboring galaxies, and are now beginning to receive FRBs from the opposite side of the universe. Whilst a likely explanation is this same occurrence taking place on a significantly larger scale, there's always the possibility of aliens being the cause. Since there's no definitive explanations or exceptionally promising answers, all possibilities should be accounted for, and that doesn't exclude alien life. Astronomer Abraham Loeb from the Harvard University is involved on a project to send a small spacecraft to Alpha Centauri, the closest star to Earth besides the Sun. This would be propelled by laser beams in order to allow us, or other life forms, to observe the radiation it emits. It's more plausible for an advanced civilization to have achieved a similar feat already. Could this be what causes the mysterious FRBs? The FRBs occur at relatively regular intervals. Could this planned and periodic phenomena be intentionally timed by an alien life force? Could they be attempting to communicate with us through these radio bursts? Loeb explains that FRBs, while possibly connected to alien life, is unlikely to be a form of communication. Sending a signal to a planet so far away would result in waiting millions of years for a reply, and if intended for life forms closer than ourselves, then a signal wouldn't need to be so powerful. Furthermore, periodical events are observed frequently in a wide variety of astrophysical occurrences, so therefore regular, seemingly scheduled signals aren't necessarily intentional or artificially created. A much less refutable argument could be if Morse code were found within the signal sent. Loeb states, if we detected a Morse-coded message, the data would have required a more creative interpretation. Loeb, alongside a colleague, wrote a paper, published in the Astrophysical Journal Letters in 2017, which considers the statistics and numerical side of this, putting the science behind the theories. They concluded that the power needed to send the fast radio bursts across such a great cosmological distance would equate to the total power that Earth received from the Sun. This advanced level of engineering would require equipment, resources, and an in-depth understanding far greater than what we have on Earth. This means that if alien life forms are trying to communicate, then we can anticipate they're far more evolved than ourselves. These fast radio bursts certainly remain a mystery for the time being. Although aliens are deemed an unlikely explanation, if an extraterrestrial life form is behind them, then they're undoubtedly superior as a civilization than us human beings, having easily surpassed our limits regarding technology. Exoplanets are being discovered every year. Could some be home to life? Exoplanets are simply planets outside of our solar system. Instead of orbiting the Sun, they orbit different stars. Now we've confirmed these celestial bodies are exoplanets. The search is on to find one that's habitable, maybe even containing life already. The only example we have now, at least, of a habitable planet is Earth. The one necessity for all life forms here is liquid water. Therefore, astronomers are beginning their searches by looking for similar environments in the habitable zones of nearby stars. This is essentially the area that's not too close to the star and therefore not too hot, but also not too far away from the star and therefore not too cold. The correct temperature means that liquid water could be found, therefore supporting life. Scientists are continuing to initially explore the zones. Through the understanding, definitions, and criteria of what makes its own habitable is continuously being added to, changing and evolving. Scientists' first instincts in searching for life are driven by looking for oxygen, water, and sustainable temperatures. This means the star the exoplanet orbits can't be burning out at a rapid rate. But alien life could also have an entirely different molecular makeup, meaning a completely different set of factors to make their area habitable. Maybe they don't need water at all? If this is the case, then we could be overlooking signs of life, not even knowing it was a possible indicator. Massachusetts Institute of Technology professor Sarah Seeger has acknowledged the bias we have in our research in looking for life only alike to us. She therefore has created lists of chemical combinations with the highest statistical chances signaling a presence of alien life. To do this, she and her team produce lists of combinations based on the 6 elements most associated with life on Earth: carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, sulfur, and hydrogen. This means that instead of simply searching for planets with water, elements and molecules most correlated with life can be searched for. Hopefully, these will present a wider range of options inclusive to the possibility that an alien life form is entirely different to any life here on Earth. While we haven't found any life on exoplanets yet, the search continues. Even a life form that requires a similar environment to us may have evolved to act and build their societies in a completely unique way. If exoplanets are the home to other intelligent life forms, how similar to us could they truly be? The search for aliens and UFOs is a scientific quest we've explored for centuries, and it's one we'll likely be facing for many more to come. But as the search becomes more mainstream, we're beginning to comprehend the infinite possibilities as to what life we may stumble across. We're looking for signs of life, ranging from advanced beings to microscopic organisms. Is the ambitious endeavor to search for life one we'll ever be able to accomplish? Do you think we'll be alone in the universe forever? So what do you make of these UFO and space discoveries? Britons over the last 1,000 years have seen it all. World wars, the growth and decline of an expansive empire, and incredible technological inventions. With all of this history, you're no doubt going to find a few strange things lying around as you delve back into the island's past. In parts of Britain, the black-eyed children of Canuck Chase. The black-eyed children are contemporary legends, first referenced in American folklore. If you've never heard of them, you would probably be wondering what and who they are. However, this eerie entity seems to be anything but human. Some think that black-eyed children are creatures of the supernatural, and it's reported that they are often found hitchhiking or in strange places alone. In 2014, residents of a small area of green countryside and quaint villages in Staffordshire, England allegedly had an experience with these strange beings. Lee Brickley, a paranormal investigator from the local area, received a letter from a resident of the area who believed she'd seen a black-eyed girl in Cannock. The investigator took one look at the description and immediately realized that their specific sighting had occurred before in the area. However, this was 30 years earlier. Lee released a description which his own aunt provided of the girl she'd seen in the 1980s, and locals immediately drew comparisons between the two figures. He described his aunt's encounter. "My aunt was only 18 years old at the time. In the summer of 1982, herself and a friend would frequently meet on Cannock in the evenings. An evening, just before the darkness approached, we heard a small child hysterically yelling. We couldn't work out whether she was in danger or not. Nevertheless, rushing to find the elves, we stumbled upon a footpath and caught sight of a girl about 6 years old, sprinting in the opposite direction. When they caught up, the girl turned around and stared into my aunt's eyes, then proceeded to run off into the pitch-dark woodland. She described her eyes as being entirely black with no trace of white. A police search was conducted but was unsuccessful. At the time, no one had any reason to believe anything paranormal was going on. The girls certainly appeared to be of flesh and blood. The latest description of the black-eyed girl of Cannock was provided by a woman under the name of Mrs. Kelly. My daughter and I were walking through the Birches Valley, an area well known for its impressive sightings. However, we stopped in our tracks when we heard the screams of a young girl. Unsure if the noise was a boy or a girl, they undoubtedly gave the impression they were in a state of turmoil. However, they sounded close. Therefore, we immediately started to run towards the noise. Unsure of the whereabouts of the child, we stopped to catch our breath and tried to relocate where the noise was. That's when I turned around and saw a girl stood behind me, no older than 10 years old. She had her hands over her eyes, like she was scared or hiding something. I asked if she had been the one shouting. She then put her arms by her sides and opened her eyes. That's when I saw they were completely black. It was like looking into the state of nothingness. I jumped back and grabbed my daughter. I blinked and the child was gone. It was strange and bizarre. Lee Brickley, the investigator, believes that black-eyed children like those found in Cannock are actually demonic beings and exist for evil purposes. He also recognizes that of many of the sightings of black-eyed children, it seems as if the creatures are leading others towards some sort of danger. One thing has been recognized: the Cannock sightings are the only sightings that occur during the daytime. Whether these sightings are false or actually credible, we do not know. However, you definitely wouldn't want to stumble across a black-eyed child at any time of day. England's Black Panther sightings. Residents of Devon will know the ghostly legend of the Exmoor beast, a phantom panther or puma that prowls the moors on the coast. Those in Cumbria will know of the Beast of Cumbria, and locals in Warwickshire will be familiar with the wildcat spotted in that part of the country. However, these aren't the only places in the UK where black panthers have been sighted. In fact, Sussex, Cornwall, Gloucestershire, Cambridgeshire, and multiple locations in Scotland have all seen large cat-like creatures, leaving residents to wonder, what are these animals and where do they come from? Norfolk has by far the most sightings, with around 60 different accounts of people spotting large cats in the wild. Earlier sightings of large cats are actually fairly credible in the UK, especially around the 1980s. In the mid to late 20th century, it was known that rich landowners were keeping large cats such as panthers, lynx, and pumas in illegal captivity. In 1980, a puma was actually captured alive in Scotland and was taken into captivity as its owners previously weren't allowed to keep wild beasts as pets in their back gardens. The first sightings of large cats reportedly came between 1770 and 1920, but these were few and far between. However, it may have been slightly more normal for Britons to see black cats roaming the wild in those 100 or so years. Many affluent citizens kept wild and obscure animals in the Victorian era as a symbol of wealth or as prizes won in strange competitions. And when these animals naturally became harder to handle than the average mongrel, they were simply set free into the countryside. Now, Britain's natural countryside isn't quite the right place for a big cat to thrive. Given the amount of livestock on farms across the country, these cats often choose things like sheep as their prey, which then causes conflict with farmers leading to sightings and cat mania. Some of these cats have been reported to have markings of Eurasian lynx, which were once a common sight in the UK, until mass hunting effectively contributed to their extinction around 700 AD. Yet some believe that these cats never became extinct, and rather lived in hiding, creating offspring over enough generations to make the lynx a credible answer to panther sightings in the UK. Naturally, people have also made up conspiracy theories about the panthers that have reportedly been seen roaming the countryside. Furthermore, in 1988, Royal Marines were sent on to Exmoor to look for evidence of a black cat that had ravaged a farmer's sheep herd. Some even reported seeing the cat. Was never taken further. UK's Bigfoot. Bigfoot is a mythical ape-like creature who walks on 2 feet much like a man and supposedly inhabits the Pacific Northwest of America. Yet, in recent times, Bigfoot sightings seem to have migrated from the States across to the UK. Bigfoot has reportedly been spotted in a few different locations across England and also in Northern Ireland. In fact, Bigfoot Enthusiast was recently investigating a supposed Bigfoot hotspot in a Lincolnshire nature reserve with his team and the British Bigfoot Research Organisation. The group, who seek evidence to prove the existence of Bigfoot, felt they were being followed the entire time they were on the reserve, and said that it was as if somebody was watching them. Adam took multiple photos that day but had not noticed anything odd whilst taking them. It was only when he flicked back through them that he noticed a strange figure lurking in the woodland overgrowth. He described it was a dark silhouette figure similar to a man stood within the trees, facing myself and my team. I make no claims of this mysterious figure, but my fellow investigators think this could be genuine evidence that the British Bigfoot organization has waited for. Another British Bigfoot researcher named Deborah Hatswell is also convinced of Bigfoot's existence. She created a map that pinpointed all the sightings of Bigfoot in the UK. Bigfoot appearances have been spotted everywhere. Practically every country in Britain has seen some form of Bigfoot-like creature. Everywhere in the world has its own stories, and the UK is no different. Bigfoot, the black-eyed children, and the black cats of the UK have inspired generations of storytelling, myths, and legends amongst Britons. Whether these creatures or beings are real or not, they definitely make more sufficient stories to be told for many years to come. But what do you make of these British mysteries? Paranormal is a subject that interests many people. Many of us are interested in the unknown, with some even having experienced it themselves. It's these experiences that's led some to investigate the subject, causing them to find a variety of answers for what happened to them. There are those that believe that we share the planet with paranormal entities, and every so often they make themselves known. Science, however, tells us that ghosts don't exist and it's actually our brains playing tricks on us. They go into detail that many things can happen to the brain that causes us to see ghosts, and some of these examples can be attributed to us being tired, our brain identifying objects in the dark, or our senses being heightened after watching a horror movie, and therefore we are more alert about what's going on around us. Paranormal researchers and those that have seen and say that the topic should be taken seriously and investigated. Other theories have been put forward to try and explain what we're seeing. For example, some note that humans' visual spectrum is ingrained, and that we can only see a certain amount of things, while certain animals have a much wider spectrum. Snakes, for example, are able to see in infrared vision. Some suggest that ghosts are beings that exist in a spectrum not picked up by the human eye. And this is why sometimes motion detectors pick up on paranormal beings. Researchers have also said that a variety of different places can be haunted, with some of the most common places being that of graveyards, old buildings, and houses where something bad has happened. However, one place you wouldn't expect to be haunted is that of ships and even the ocean. A man was working on an old boat when he took a mysterious photograph. Upon reviewing it, he discovered he'd accidentally captured something in the background. The image first started to make the rounds online back in August of 2014, with the eyewitness saying the following about the image. As I said in a previous post, I work at sea. Last month, we came into a dry dock to carry out refit and repairs. Dry dock is when a ship is brought into a lock, the gates closed, and all the water pumped out, leaving the ships high and dry on the blocks, thus allowing repairs and inspections on the underside of the hull. Next to us was an old military frigate being broken down for scram. She had arrived around 2 weeks prior to us. Once the frigate was on the blocks and all dry, all the crew left the old girl to her veins. A sad sight, but that's how these things go. Once all the sensitive stuff had been removed, the dock workers were free to go on. The dock foreman John went on board first with a camera to take pictures of work areas. All in all, he took a couple hundred. This was one of them. He later sent all of the photographs to his boss, who upon seeing this one called John straight away asking the following: "Who is the guy with the axe, the edge of the camera flash?" At the time John was confused as he never saw anyone while on the ship. The area where this photograph was taken was in a cross alley deep inside the ship. He was walking around with a torch and a camera, and when he'd go to take a photograph, he would turn off the torch, leaving him in total darkness. After this, he would turn the torch back on and be on his way. Because of it being a military ship, the police were soon contacted. The police turned up and carried out their own investigation. However, they noted that they didn't find any trace of anyone being on the ship. It's also interesting to note that there was only one way on and off the ship, and this was by a gameway covered by CCTV. It was very unlikely that someone would jump off the side of the ship as it was a 25-meter drop. You couldn't jump over without being seriously injured. No one was seen to leave the ship after John had taken this. If you zoom in on the image, you can make out what appears to be a person. The witness went on to say the following: "I am a skeptic. Maybe it's a trick of the flash reflecting off something. But if you really zoom in, you can make out the face, ear, collar of the jacket and the axe. And before anyone asks, I'm not going to name the ship or where she is, as I'm not sure if I'm even supposed to have a picture of the innards of a military ship. This gave me serious goosebumps. Needless to say, I didn't go back on board for a loan. Some people gave their opinion on what they thought the being could be. This caused some to suggest that something dark took place in the region, and now that event has left an imprint that gets played over and over. Other examples of residual haunting include that of something making banging noises or turning on the same light over and over. Although this may sound creepy, residual haunting is actually one of the better hauntings to experience. According to paranormal researchers, these entities will let you know that they're there, but they'll usually stay out of your way. There's also a dark entity that's allegedly been plaguing the human race since recorded history, and this entity goes by many different names. For many years, a number of people all around the world have reported waking up at night and seeing a mysterious shadowy figure, and some suggested that the being in this photograph is a shadow figure. The shadowy figure has over time become famous, leading onto it to be given a variety of different names, some of which include the Shadow Man, the Hat Man, and the Shadow Person. The phenomenon has gained widespread popularity, and a number of documentaries have been made on the subject, trying to get to the bottom of what people are experiencing. However, it seems that the more the subject is looked into, the more questions are put forward. A dedicated blog known as the Hat Man Project has also been launched where people share their experiences with the Hat Man. The history of the Hat Man phenomenon goes way back in time, and different written records of the Hat Man have been found. In fact, some evidence of the Hat Man-like entity have been found in scriptures of previous civilizations as well, showcasing that whatever this thing is, it's been plaguing humanity for a long time. So what do you guys make of this photograph? And do you think it's a paranormal being? Paranormal experiences are reported all across the world, and India is no exception. From forts to beaches to forests, India has its fair share of haunted locations. It is not uncommon for people living in India to believe in ghosts, or as Indian natives call them, Bhoot. Hinduism is a major religion in India, and a core belief of this religion is that souls live on after someone has passed away and wait for rebirth in another life or reincarnation. When someone experiences a tragic sudden loss of life, many believe their souls take longer to transition to another life or a higher form of consciousness known as nirvana. Instead of moving on, these souls linger around Earth to haunt its people. Bangor Fort, Rajasthan. Built in the 17th century in Rajasthan state of India, The Bangor Fort is known as one of India's most haunted locations. Past the ramparts into the ruins, you will find a dramatic main gate leading to multiple ancient temples, including the Hanuman Temple and Gopinath Temple, as well as numerous palaces. The other entrances into Bangarth are the Delhi Gate, Ajmeri Gate, Pulbari Gate, and Lahore Gate. It was built by Bhagwanth Das, the Kushwaha ruler of Amber, for his son, Madho Singh. The town was ultimately deserted, however, during a 1783 famine and fell to ruins. Today, the fort is known for being a breeding ground of paranormal activity. There are two main legends that encompass the supernatural tendencies of the area. The first involves the Sadhu Baba Balak Nath. Sadhu refers to a holy person who has renounced worldly life. According to this legend, Baba Balak Nath lived in the fort and demanded that all houses built must not be constructed taller than his. He proclaimed that if the shadow of any other house fell onto his, he would ensure the destruction of the entire town. Allegedly, the rule was not followed, resulting in the town's demise and a permanent sinister energy. In another version of this tale, Sadhu is referred to as Balunath. Instead of living in a house, Balunath lived in a nearby cave. Madho Singh needed Balunath's permission to construct a fortress because of his claim to the land as his site of meditation. He complied, but ordered Madho Singh to ensure that the shadows of the fortress did not touch his cave or disturb his meditation. But after the sun shifted south in the winter, the shadows grew longer, and this spoken contract was breached. This woke Balunath up from his deep meditation, and he soon issued a curse on the town. The curse prevented roofs from ever being constructed in the fort. Today, none of the old houses have a roof remaining. It is said that any new construction in Bangor Fort leads to a collapsed roof. According to the second legend, Singh I, a wizard well-versed in the practice of black magic, fell in love with a Bungar princess named Ratnavati, who was said to have unparalleled beauty. Singh I offered the princess a love potion in the marketplace, but was refused. She threw the potion onto a large rock, which then rolled onto the wizard, crushing him, causing him to pass away. In another version, Singhi cast a spell on a bottle of perfume Ratnavati's maid was buying in the village. If Ratnavati used the scent, she would fall in love with him. When the princess learned about the spell, she threw it out the window, and the potion struck either Singh I or, in the other stories, a boulder that then rolled onto the wizard. Before he passed away, he cursed the inhabitants of the fort. Next year, the curse took hold for the princess and the townspeople when the Mughals invaded and took the life of them. Due to the town's disturbing alleged past, the insidious atmosphere remains to this day. Before he passed away, he cursed the inhabitants of the fort. Next year, the curse took hold for the princess and the townspeople when the Mughals invaded and took the life of them. Due to the town's disturbing alleged past, the insidious atmosphere remains to this day. The fear of the fort is so prevalent that the Archaeological Survey of India has prohibited anyone from entering or remaining in the fort past sundown. Currently, people unknown to the area are banned from entry without special permission because they are so prone to getting mysteriously lost. Creepy warnings are posted all over the town to discourage entry at night. One sign reads, "It is forbidden to enter the borders of the haunted Bangor Fort before sunrise and after sunset. It is believed that the soul of Singh I still searches for his princess in the night." Another creepy phenomenon is that due to the curse placed on the roofs in the fort, new constructions have allegedly led to numerous fatal collapses. Visitors have also seen unexplained shadows, strange lights, and the apparition of a little boy looking out the window in one of the houses. Many disturbing sounds can be heard through the area, such as the sounds of screams, bangles, women crying, and music accompanied by the voices of people dancing to it. Locals also say that if you stay overnight at the fort, you will never return. If you choose to visit this area, who knows what you might experience. There seems to be a great variety of mystical happenings to choose from. Dow Hill. Dow Hill of Kursong is located 30 kilometers from Darjeeling and is known to be the most haunted hill site in India. While the hill is known for its beautiful scenery, orchid gardens, woodland, and tea plantations, there seems to be a darker side that comes out at night. It is believed that multiple loss of lives has occurred in the area that affect the energy of the land to this day. Much of the paranormal activity occurs on a road between the Dow Hill Road and the forest office. Allegedly, local woodcutters have spotted the ghost of a headless boy walking around the forest. The ghost of a woman dressed in all gray has also been reported. Many visitors to the hill experience a constant sense of being watched by something unseen or by a red eye. Some people carry the feeling of being followed with them for the rest of their lives, even far away from the hill. It is not uncommon for guests to get lost in the woods, lose their sanity, or take their own life. There is also a haunted school on the hill that is 100 years old called Victoria Boys High School. Loud whisperings and footsteps can be heard around the school even during the vacation seasons. The physical details of the hill certainly do not improve the creepy vibe of the area. The weather is mainly foggy, it is often mainly silent, and there are no street lights to guide you through the darkness. One local member described the hill as the perfect setting for a horror movie. Thanks to these hazy conditions, the hill can be dangerous even without extraterrestrial happenings. Dumas Beach, Gujarat. Dumas Beach is an urban beach located along the Arabian Sea. It is 21 kilometers southwest of the city of Surat in the state of Gujarat. It is a common tourist spot, but with some dark stories attached to it. Dumas Beach features black sand. The odd color is certainly an appeal, but the eerie beliefs behind the dark shore make this feature quite disturbing. It is believed that the beach used to be a Hindu burial site. The bodies on the burial site were reduced to ashes. This, mixed with the white sand, caused many to believe this is why the sand is now black. It appears some of the souls of the bodies laid to rest on the beach have not relinquished their presence on Earth. Many people, both tourists and locals, are said to have gone missing from Dumas and were never found. It is widely believed that staying at the beach overnight is a challenge to the remaining spirits who walk down the beach at night. If this is the case, it is unlikely you will make it back alive or with a pleasant experience. One man was mysteriously found lifeless on this beach, with his tongue missing. No evidence was ever found to explain his loss of life. The beach is also known for its strange sounds. When the beach is largely deserted, voices, laughing, and crying can sometimes still be heard. Apparitions and orbs have also been reported frequently. The way dogs tend to behave on this beach is another chilling paranormal element. They are said to behave strangely, especially after dark, howling and barking in audible distress, and trying to prevent visitors from walking further. Many theorize that dogs can sense invisible presences better than humans, and how to alert their owners. Even the air of the beach at night is troublesome. Many complain of a feeling of heavy air that fills you with sadness and weighs down your spirit. These three spots are so terrifying that many locals wouldn't dare visit them. Yet, others classify all these supernatural events as mere stories. What do you think? Would you visit these haunted locations? But what do you make of these haunted places in India?